Hello, welcome back to the Friends of Zeus podcast. This is episode 207. Um, Tonight, because of recent news, we are going to talk about the recent plane crashes and the excellent footage we got on them, which is really bizarre. And Des has kind of got a timeline for us. So why don't you? Oh, well, I wanted to talk about the one thing that offends me about this, and it offends me with
Well,
everyone.
well, tell them like just for real quick, tell them like which crashes we're talking about because people may be watching
Oh,
this 50
the
years from
one
now.
in the one in Washington, D.C., where a Black Hawk apparently ripped a plane in half. And then the one in Pennsylvania that when I saw the footage, I thought that looks like a missile.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looked not like a plane crash. But anyway, and this offends me with all the plane crashes. Um, they they posted on the news like the picking out the rubble, and I can only imagine what it's like for the families, especially with the one in DC, because it's real close to home for me. Because a lot of the people that were on that flight were from Fairfax,
Mhm.
which is where Patriots, where I'm sitting tonight, is. But I don't like that they're showing this, and it's got to be, the person can't turn on the TV without seeing them, dredging the river. I get that it's news and other people want to know, but put it in the paper. You can look there or put
I
it
would
on.
probably just not watch TV if it was,
Yeah.
I'm not a big
probably
TV
wouldn't.
watcher anymore, really. I do binging on like shows, so I can't even watch the news. I haven't watched the news like regular in probably a decade because it's just generally so depressing. I'll catch a bit here and there,
I mean,
but
my guess is that most people are going to avoid, I mean, most people who have a direct connection are going to avoid watching TV.
And
I'm
that's to
sure,
any disaster or
yeah.
big thing that happens or,
yeah.
whatever, whether it be a 9/11 or school shooting or
And then, yeah.
whatever,
And then
bombing of something.
there's going to be people that are obsessed and won't stop watching it, you know? I'm
Mhm.
sure there's those people too.
It gets the clicks, all that. I get it. It's just something that kind of offends me. I don't need to see that, and I'm somewhat empathetic, and the first thing I think is, what about the families that have to see this? But
When they have the images of them pulling like the fuselage or parts of the fuselage out of the water, today I had this morbid thought and I had to zoom in on the photo
you
because I
know,
was like, man, I really hope that they checked this over and made sure there was not a human remain hanging off of this fucking wreckage before they photographed it and put it all
Hmm.
over the shit.
that's
Hmm.
kind
Like
of what
that
I'm
would
getting
be with the LA fires, there was an image of like again, who
A
knows if it
dead
was real,
body.
of that fucking skeleton.
Uh,
Mm.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
at. I didn't
the
hear about that. What was that?
it was like this. There were like news like panning like some burned down a couple of houses and like in the corner of the image there was like a skeleton.
Like a charred remains kind of deal?
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I mean, just a little bit of an aside on this. I have always found it strange that, or not strange, but I don't know what to think about it. But you hear stories from like great grandpa or so and so in World War II coming back and never wanted to talk about it because it was something so horrendous happened, right? They saw all kinds of carnage. Now, and when I was growing up, it was hard to find, not that I mean, I guess I looked for it a little bit. There's no internet, but you wouldn't really see super explicit violence or dead bodies or something, unless it was a horror movie or it was fake or
but
something like
every
that.
once in a while you'd see something horrific, like the guy, the Buddhist monk that
Yeah, like here, like little pieces. Now, these days, there's like this was remember a few years ago when ISIS was beheading everyone.
yeah.
There were
Hmm.
like elementary school children
What was that, Daniel Pearl?
trading videos of people getting
By
decapitated.
the
I mean,
way, for
like
everyone
little
out there in
kids.
podcast land, don't go look for that video because it's on the internet and it's not pretty to watch because his head comes off.
Yeah, I'm
We're
just
talking
saying.
about Daniel Pearl, right?
I don't know. what his name?
I'm
Is that
just
the guy?
wondering what the effect is of like seeing and internalizing all this imagery.
Well,
Just
let me
a
put on my psych hat for a second.
just
And
curious, as a
it,
society, is it just
I
kind of
think it's
weird?
going to desensitize us, and it's going to make violence more commonplace and a slow roll. But we're going to see more and more of these situations because people just don't. It's not registering the way.
I don't know. I maybe think the opposite because for example, this plane crash. Plane crashes a lot. I mean, Malaysian flight, whatever, it just disappeared. Planes have crashed, 9/11. I mean, planes have crashed in history, but you don't really, it's really hard to imagine what a plane crash looks like and like how you feel about it until
Yeah.
you are exposed to it. And I mean, I wouldn't say it desensitizes me. I mean, it sucks to like feel like that and see that and you kind of connect to the emotions with it when you can actually see it. Now, if it was every day for like 3 years seeing a plane crash, maybe.
hmm
But I don't know.
It's like they look for what's something horrendous we can show today.
I mean,
Yeah.
the plane crash, it really is like the man or the dog bites man. Like it's or the man bites dog, whichever. I can't remember. But my the thing is, it's like everyone has a very instantaneous and very similar reaction because we can all identify with it. It's like most people have been on a plane and it's uncomfortable. There's a level of it that's uncomfortable because you don't have total control of
Control.
everything.
Oh, I'm the high
So,
level of uncomfortable on a flight. I hate flying.
but I'm saying I think that's why it hits it hits us so much more so. I mean, car wrecks do. I mean, if you
Yeah.
ever see a car wreck, it does because it's like, man, that could have been me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when someone, and that's the weird thing with like the fentanyl issue too, is people are dying, and it used to be like, well, I don't take drugs. I'm not gonna overdose on heroin because I don't take heroin. But now people are like, hey, can I get an Adderall? And then they die, because it's like
Right.
laced. So it's like that's hitting home a lot more because people are like, whoa, wait a minute.
I think there's
That could be
something,
me or that could be my
honestly,
family.
much like 9/11, and since they choreographed 9/11, of course, I think the plane part resonates with a lot of
WTC-7 will never go away.
our little music interlude. I think the plane part of it really resonates with a lot of people because it's one of those few situations in life where if it's going down, you got literally no
No,
control.
yeah.
Like the one I was talking to Mike about a flight, I guess it was earlier this year, where 183 people were on the plane and two lived. And I was telling him, those two that lived better have been buying some lottery tickets after that.
I don't know. They probably
Do you
used
always
up.
ever think it's
Used
strange?
it
Like
up.
it's just every time, and I don't fly like a lot, but I've flown I mean, a good amount of times in my life, my short life so far. And every time they do that safety presentation,
You're like,
I'm just like, why?
Well, the
No one's
seatbelt's important.
surviving.
The seatbelt's important for turbulence, but yeah, other than that,
yeah,
forget it.
really, they should be when those things drop down, it should be laced with fentanyl.
We're
Just
Yeah,
laughing gas.
right.
exactly. Yeah, just
Yeah.
knock me out so I don't know. And
And actually, that would improve your chances of living because, like they
you
always say, that
dum, dum, dum.
alcoholics,
Yeah,
yeah,
they don't have resist. They don't, yeah,
the
resist the.
alcoholic survives the crash because
Yep.
they're and the other
It
people are going.
it could
Mhm.
be you could be like that soccer team in where was that? Brazil, Peru, or whatever, and then you end up eating your friends like because you crashed on a mountaintop and then you
Oh
have to
yeah.
survive.
Mike, I would eat you last.
I don't know, man. I got some juicy bits.
I know, but I want to save it to enjoy it.
I mean, at that point, are you just saying, well, I've got about 5 days. Whatever. Fucking
Yeah.
eat me first. I don't care.
I mean, could
Or
you
are you
like
trying
cut
to
off?
survive? Like,
Could you
really?
like cut off your own arm and tourniquet it, and then cook your arm and eat that and survive an
That
Hmm.
is
extra
a
few weeks?
great Stephen King story called Survivor Type. You should read
That's
it.
right.
That
Oh,
is a
I haven't.
fantastic,
Yep.
fantastic Stephen King story.
Everything's been thought of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's in Skeleton Crew, that
Yes.
collection. It's really
Oh,
good.
okay,
That was a
okay.
great book all around.
Yeah,
I'll
it
check it
was.
So
out.
let's bring it back to
Let's bring it back.
airplanes. Okay. So little bit of a background story to all this. So this occurred when this occurred, I was in Mexico.
Wow.
How did I get to Mexico? I flew on an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
This
do that.
Mm-hmm.
happened.
That's dangerous.
That's It's actually fairly safe. Well, so this happened on January 29th, Kansas's birthday. Happy birthday, Kansas. Here's a plane crash.
Oh, Kansas is
Kansas Day, Kansas birthday.
Yeah, 6 days ago. Wow.
Kansas 134 years old. Happy birthday,
Nice.
Kansas.
Doesn't look like it.
I know, man. Can you, yeah, I know of like those people that are 100 years old
Yeah.
out there. They were around when this state was only 34 years old.
Yeah.
That's not long. Anyway,
Pretty freaky.
crazy. So, and when Craig and I found out that this happened, we had left the resort and we were eating some dinner with a couple of friends that we had met at the resort. Okay. So in the taxi on the way back, I was like scrolling Facebook and I was like, "Oh my God, look at this." And I showed him and it had said like the plane that crashed in the Potomac originated in Wichita. And that's when I texted you guys. I was like, "Oh my God, that plane that just crashed from Wichita." And
Mm-hmm.
the very first things that kind of came out was that it was a small plane. So I'm thinking like a 6-seater Cessna. That's what I thought.
Mm.
But then more stuff comes out and it's a Bombardier
Yeah.
commuter jet. Now the thing about it is that, most of the time when a plane takes off from a city, who knows who the fuck's on it, But Wichita is a very strange case where it's like the 6 degrees of separation. But on a Wichita flight, it's like the 3 degrees of separation. Literally, everybody knows the person you're sitting next to in some capacity, whether they were your teacher's aunt's cousin or whether they were your teacher or whether, you know what I mean? Like somehow. And everybody on it's a weird, I've never experienced this on any type of flight before, but a Wichita flight, everyone's talking, everyone's laughing. Everyone's like, there's this one time I was on a Wichita flight that there was a baby crying, and this baby became everyone's fucking baby. Like, passing the baby around. There was some old ladies like, it's my turn.
Oh man.
Yeah. And everyone's just, it extends to the airport and the carousel, the luggage carousel, like everyone's joking. Oh, good to be home. How about you go into the game? Whatever it is. I mean, it's just a very homely, comforting situation.
Wow.
when she was mentioning that, the reason why I was laughing, I was picturing the scene from Airplane where the lady's freaking out and everybody's in line to like shake her.
Yeah.
Hit her with the...
What do you any theories on why that is?
I
Desiree?
don't
Any
know. I
thoughts?
don't know if it's because everyone from Wichita, it's a big city. It's 400,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not small.
Yeah.
So there's
It's
really no reason that everyone should somehow in capacity know some other people on a flight. But we do, and I don't know why. Have you ever experienced that taking off from a city that you live in?
I mean, not so much with flights, but again, Baltimore's a similar size city, probably just a little bit bigger, but it's like a little big town. It's
Yeah.
everyone kind of knows.
Exactly. And
It's
I
not
think
that
it's
big.
that,
It's not that much geography, so people kind of have a
yeah,
lot in
but
common.
Wichita is a lot of geography, like it's spread out. And so, it's, I don't know, maybe because it's like the Midwest, like
Mhm.
thing.
Maybe.
I don't know.
So wait a minute. So was your gut like telling you, or were you worried that you knew people on the
Yeah.
flight?
Mhm.
Okay.
So, and one of the senators from Kansas, Jerry Moran, actually, one of the first press conferences that he did, he had said that he had mentioned the same thing. Like everybody who's ever flown out of Wichita knows that we all probably know people on that flight.
Mm.
It's just a weird thing that happens. But so Craig, one of the reasons that they started doing those direct Wichita to DC flights, they just started like a year ago,
That's
is
what I heard.
because Senator Jerry Moran was one of the people that like lobbied for them to add that. So a lot of the, there's lobbyists, there's senators, whatever, they don't live in Kansas City, they live in Wichita. So for them to commute back and forth, that's why they lobbied for it. And so again, Craig knows a lot of people in government, and one of the reasons for those flights is, government travel.
Hmm.
So he was like having kind of a little panic attack, like that he was gonna
Yeah.
know multiple people on this flight, and he was like worried. He was calling everybody. One of his friends was like not answering,
Oh,
and so he was like
geez.
really worried about it, but he ended up being okay. He's in Panama for some reason. Anyway, so it was a little bit like worrisome for a while because they hadn't started releasing names of the people that were on the flight. Turns out there was not a lot of Wichitans on the flight, oddly enough.
Hmm.
There was
Uh,
only like a
more
handful.
more odd than that, it was a bunch of ice skaters coming back from Wichita. I don't think
Uh,
of Wichita as the ice skating mecca
Apparently,
of the United.
it was like the Olympic qualifier.
Yeah.
Weird.
Or one of them. Yeah. It was
One
like
of them, yeah.
15 of them were related to ice skating.
Yeah. Craig's mom went to that competition.
Wow.
Random.
Wow.
Wow.
But yeah, so then we had to fly back. We flew back on the February 1st.
Oh, geez. It's like
I
2 days
wouldn't,
later. Yeah.
yeah, I wouldn't say I was nervous about the two flights we had to take. I mean, I know that that was a freak accident. Flying is relatively safe. I personally get nervous on takeoff, but that's just a me thing. I get over it. Now, like I just mentioned about the Wichita flight situation, this flight, different. Nobody on the plane was talking. It was silent.
Yeah.
You get
How do
off,
we know that?
No,
huh?
no. Her flight
Oh, sorry. Okay, gotcha.
back from Mexico.
No, from when I flew from Atlanta to
Gotcha.
Wichita.
I got it.
Oh, Atlanta. Atlanta.
Yeah, because we met at Cancun, Atlanta to Wichita. So, and then we get off the plane, and again, no one's really conversing. You come out of the gate, you go down whatever hallway, then you go out the opposite of security, then you go down this escalator thing. And it's a really long escalator. At the end of the escalator, there's this huge, it's like three of those big long, like not picnic tables, but like folding tables
Mm,
it's just covered in flowers, like bouquets of flowers and
mm,
just sympathy flowers and cards and then photos of some of the victims and
Ugh.
they had like this like sticky notes everywhere because people were like writing like
yeah.
thoughts and prayers and misuse and just sentimental messages about the flight and the victims and the airline and all the things. And so it was really like sad. Again, when we were at the carousel, nobody's like talking to each other. It was really somber. And then I remember leaving. And this is like I remember this was like literally last week. And Craig had pulled the car up to the loading zone and we're like loading and I shut the back of the hatch and I just look back at the airport and the front of it is glass. And so you can see this like in huge letters across the whole airport. It says Wichita, the air capital of the world.
Mm,
And it was so surreal just to look at that because you can't miss it.
yeah.
And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm looking at the same sign that I've seen so many times. And all those people looked at
Saw it.
that same fucking sign before they boarded that flight.
Yeah.
It was just really weird, like so surreal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we
I
tend
mean,
to print terrible things onto our own lives. You know what I mean? Like suddenly it's more visceral. So I get that. I
yeah,
think
well,
like
there's
9/11, we were all like, where were you on 9/11? Most people know exactly
yeah.
where they were on nine
Hmm.
eleven because we're like putting ourselves in that situation and really letting it
there
resonate.
it's very alarming when something that's very familiar becomes or has a level of trauma immediately associated with it from out of nowhere. I mean
Yeah.
that's just troubling no matter what it is. Something that I mean that's again going back to 9/11. It was like a beautiful day. People were just doing their thing. I mean
Gorgeous.
but I mean to your when you're with the memorial Desiree, I mean that really hit. I mean they've had a similar thing here at
Hmm.
Reagan. I haven't seen it personally. I've seen pictures of it. But they did something, what's today, Tuesday? I think this was Sunday. It may have been yesterday, but they had an area on the bank there, right on the south side of the airport, and they had like family members and all that stuff like there. They had like a little service, and I'm just like, God, I mean, you're literally looking out at the water, and there's like pieces of the helicopter sticking up. I mean, I just can't imagine that. I mean, you try to be close. It's like if you go through a loss like that, you kind of want to be close to it, I would imagine, but
Mhm.
you can't go out in the water, you can't get that close. But they did that here. I mean, it's the weird thing about Reagan Airport is, or National Airport as it used to be known, um, it's so busy. I mean, I cannot over explain how busy this place is. I mean,
It
And
feels
there's only
busier
three
than Dulles.
runways.
there's only three runways. They have it's the busiest. Um,
Small, right?
it's
Small airport.
small. It's a small airport. It's short runways, and it has over 800 planes a day taking off and landing, which is just
Somewhere I read that
mind-boggling.
it's rated for like 2,500 passenger. I couldn't remember if it said a
It's
day or a
way
month,
over.
but it gets like 4,100.
Yeah, and there's a lot of political it is a unique place because like what you were saying earlier with your senator, I think that lobbied to have a flight from Wichita. It's like
Mhm.
times every city in the country lobbies to have a direct flight to
Yeah.
national because it's not an international, but if you're coming to DC, there's a metro station right there. That's a super busy metro station. George Washington Parkway goes right between the metro station and the airport.
Yeah,
The
everything about
Potomac
that
is
area
right
is.
there. I mean, it is like there's military and unmarked helicopters everywhere. I mean, that's when people are like, "Man, I'm so surprised. How are they near the airport?" I'm like, I don't know where these people have been because there've been helicopters flying down there since I was knee high. I remember going
Hmm.
down to that park that's at the end of the runways
Oh
if you're
yeah, and
taking off
watching the
north.
planes. Yeah,
Yeah, and you could see helicopters there like all the time. They had one or two near misses a couple days before this. But anyway, my
That
point
day.
is that
Or
my
that
point is
sorry, the previous day.
the airport
with a
is
Blackhawk again, or
they have a lot of different ones. The Huey style, the Blackhawk style, the
No, he
Sikorsky
means that.
one.
No, the near miss was it with another Black Hawk or
Oh,
two
I don't know.
planes?
I don't know. But it's the worst
Oh,
kept secret. That airport is overused. It was never built for that. The infrastructure around it was never built
yeah,
for
like
that.
I said,
Yeah,
when
and you
you're
can't
there, it
improve the
feels busier.
infrastructure.
It feels busier than Dulles, which is an international hub. Like Dulles
The
is a serious airport, but when you're at national, you always feel that rush.
and
I used to live there, and I preferred National. Like
yeah,
it was something. It's just it was so close, like you said, Mike.
yeah.
I lived in Arlington, worked
Oh
in
wow.
DC, and I remember taking a couple of trips. I was young and I wasn't afraid to fly like I am now, and so I remember using National Airport a couple of times. And this is when it was National Airport before it was
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Reagan,
Reagan.
and I always preferred it. I just I don't know, it just seemed cozier. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it,
it
And like
is.
you can take
yeah.
the metro to it. There's like options, more options than Dulles. Dulles is like you're committed to the drive.
And Dulles was out there.
I mean, I think like on the radio around here, people are like, "Man, should we even have Dulles open?" I mean, there's people that are like, "Oh, we shouldn't even have it open." I think that's extreme. I don't think it's going to close, but I definitely can see scaling back of flights. I mean, I could it should. It's overtaxed. It
Oh, you
really
mean
is.
Reagan?
Reagan, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's overtaxed. It's way too busy
And
for the
the
size of
place
it.
like the where it's at, there's no way to like add another runway
No, no,
or
it's like an
like
island basically.
mhm, or
And
even yeah, there's no way.
I was telling Zeus, I mean, my office is in Bethesda, probably just a couple miles away from there. And when I park my car and then I walk into the building, I see one or two, sometimes three planes fly over that are heading or coming from the and I mean I'm talking about just in the time it takes me to walk into the building.
Hmm.
So it's busy, man. It's
Yeah.
anytime I go down Cabin John Parkway or the GW. I mean, and the other thing is the where National Airport is, it's right on the Potomac, and all of these helicopters, um, that some go down to Quantico, Langley, where the CIA is. The Potomac is like a superhighway for helicopters.
Yeah, I
And
think in our text message exchange, I was like, what the fuck was a helicopter
yeah, they're
doing in an
everywhere.
aeroplane space? Like, get out of the way.
And they fly low. And then also, at least on the northern approach to National, um, the planes fly down the river. That's the path you take to get to the
Runway
airport.
one.
Yeah. So anyway, I
So
think
this
they're
is
going to cut it back, but we'll
here's
see.
so I've been kind of trying to figure out the most like shortened version of timeline because there's a lot of stuff out there and it's a little bit confusing actually when you kind of go through reading it because it's from a lot of different viewpoints and what's real and what's not and all the things. So here's kind of what I have. Okay, so this is an approximately 8:48 p.m. American Airlines flight number 5342
Hmm.
originating from Dwight D. Eisenhower in Wichita to Reagan
Hmm.
National in Washington, D.C. collided with the U.S. Army Blackhawk helicopter. Mid-air explosion, falls to the Potomac. Everyone died. There was 64 people on the plane, 3 soldiers. Everyone's gone. The American Airlines. Well, it actually technically wasn't American Airlines. It was like some other like feeder. But we're
Regional.
gonna say American Airlines because it's much easier to keep
It
track
had
of.
their logo, but
Under
yeah,
that
It said
umbrella.
American Eagle, which
American
used to be a
Eagle.
subsidiary, but yeah, it's owned by American Airlines.
Mm-hmm.
So, this jet, it was a Bombardier CRJ700. It was on its initial descent into Reagan National. And the flight plan was to land on runway 1. But approximately 8:40 p.m., when they entered the airspace for the initial descent, air traffic control radioed in and asked them if they could use runway 33 instead. So runway 1 is straight, 33 is at an angle, 33 degrees. So they said, yeah, we can do that. And the reason they asked them to do that is because there was a lot of traffic still behind them, and they thought they could maybe just like clear up some congestion by moving this one flight over. Call it a day. Apparently, that's not something that's uncommon. They do it a lot. Well, maybe they're not gonna no more.
Hmm.
So by doing that though, this kind of because they were coming on approach to 1, then they had to kind of circle around to go to 33. That put them in the path of, or in the same flight path as the helicopter. Although the helicopter, it wouldn't have mattered because if the helicopter would still be like kind of lower from where like the altitude of approach is. So it wasn't going to matter. But that renavigation put them in airspace together. At approximately 8:45 p.m., air traffic control alerted the helicopter that there was now a CRJ approaching the runway 33, and it was 1,200 feet out. And they said, "Do you have the CRJ? Do you
No.
have the CRJ in sight, or do you see the CRJ? Whatever."
What is the CRJ?
That's the
Type of plane.
That's the American Airlines
okay,
flight
gotcha.
CRJ. It's a type of plane.
I thought it was an acronym or something. Okay.
No. So they asked them at the same kind of time that this was happening, there was another American Airlines Bombardier CRJ taking off from runway 1, taking off and turning. So air traffic control asked the helicopter if they see the CRJ. They told them that there was going to be one approaching the 33 runway and asked them to see it. They said, yes, we see it. Requesting visual separation. So basically what that means is, yeah, we're requesting to just, we can see it. You don't need to watch us kind of thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then they, from this is coming from both the recorders from the air traffic control and the pilot, the cockpit recorder in the cockpit of the airplane. None of this information is coming from 3/4 on the Blackhawk, just by the way. So then they said yes, they see the flight or the plane. And then it was heard on one of the recordings that the CRJ got an alert, traffic by TCAS. We could talk about TCAS later and all of that. But then air traffic control instructed the helicopter to pass behind the CRJ. And again, they requested visual separation. Then at 8:48 p.m., a verbal reaction was heard by the CRJ pilots in the cockpit, and then they increased the pitch of the plane, so they pulled up. And then approximately 1 second later, you could hear the sound of the collision, and the recording ended. So at the time of this collision, air traffic control data shows that the helicopter was at 200 feet. The data from the airplane showed that it was at 300 feet, give or take 25 feet. So
That's a good degree of separation.
Well, turns out you weren't at 200 feet because how did you collide? So something is off there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another thing we can talk about in a second. Because if you were at 200 feet, you probably wouldn't have collided with the plane.
Well, and that's the thing. The ceiling in that area for helicopters is 200 feet. They're
Yeah.
not supposed to fly above it. And again, for geometry purposes, if you have an airport and helicopters have to stay a certain distance away under a certain elevation, then that frees up all the traffic above for the
Airplanes.
planes to come in and land. But
Yeah.
how could they collide if it was under 200?
Yeah, so something developed a discrepancy. What was that? We don't know. Then the next day, President Trump addressed the nation now. I think it was one of those, it
Yeah.
was too soon
Oh, the DEI thing.
situations.
Yeah.
Because I'm not disagreeing with you, sir. However,
Little sensitivity.
maybe just you don't even know yet if it could have
It's
been
not good
something.
timing. Yeah,
It
it's not
could have
prudent.
been a fucking altimeter problem. We don't know yet.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not
We don't know
prudent.
what experiences at the time. We didn't know the experiences of the pilots, neither
Well,
aircraft,
If I
the air
may,
traffic control, any of that.
Yeah.
if I
So-
may, bear with me 1 sec. If I may, my understanding of his DEI comment was that people that were supposed to be in charge of
The controllers.
fixing everything were distracted by the fixing of everything, and this was like a side effect.
What does that mean, fixing of everything?
Just getting rid of DEI, like more political stuff, less airport operation stuff, and that it was a distraction. That was what I gathered. I could be wrong, but that's what I gathered from the first article that I read about.
No, they did a little looking into the FAA, and again, there's been stories about this on social media for a while now, about how there were initiatives for DEI, initiatives for hiring more people with mental health disabilities, with physical limitations. So that was all coming out.
And I
like
get that.
and like Desiree said, it just wasn't. You don't know for a fact that that's why this plane went down. So why even get into that at that point?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
that
I
could have
agree.
been maybe in a week bring it up. I don't know.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
I just didn't
necessarily
feel
a
like it was good
crash
timing.
itself.
No, Des, you're totally right. It was a little
Yeah.
insensitive.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah.
the facts weren't out yet. We don't know why.
We didn't
you
know
know,
anything.
we didn't know anything.
It could have been
Except for-
intentional.
At the time,
Yeah.
at the time, just seeing the footage, it looked intentional.
Yeah,
Which
kind of like that bridge in Baltimore when the boat just made a beeline for
Yeah,
the.
what is?
Wait, how did it look intentional? It looked like all I
We
saw
can-
was a bright flash in the sky.
we'll get
You-
back. Well, did you see the second one that came
You got
out?
to see the second and
No.
third videos.
They just don't stop. They just boom.
And you
Wow.
see the helicopter go down, and then the plane kind of flips and breaks into pieces and falls in
Oh.
the water.
I don't.
Yeah,
I'll
it's-
pass. I'll trust you.
It's a word. That one's a more. It. The other one's very
Oddly
far away.
enough,
You could barely see anything.
as insensitive as I can be sometimes, I'm not like a murder porn, death porn kind of guy. I don't need to see.
Yeah, I got you. But you were asking. I wasn't.
No. I'm
Yeah.
just saying. I'm just making a statement. Yeah.
So yeah, that whole again, I don't disagree with the whole DEI thing. I just don't think it was the right time to talk about all of that.
I think
Yeah, but
the
what
other
I'm
thing.
getting at when I ask about the DEI thing, are you saying because it was a woman pilot on the Blackhawk, or
At the time, we
what
didn't
was
even
his
know that.
DEI
I
reference?
think what he was referring to is maybe, I think
The
that he
distraction.
may have, no, I think he was maybe referring to the air traffic controllers.
That's what I think.
That's
Yeah.
what I think he was maybe referring to.
Okay.
But again,
And
we don't even know we didn't know shit about what was going on in the air traffic control tower at that time.
well, there have been reports, and the news did come out before the end of last week that they typically at 9:30 p.m. during the busy times of the day they have someone in the air traffic control tower at National that just deals with helicopter traffic, and then they
Mhm.
have
Right.
the
But
controllers
again,
that deal with
that is
airplanes.
staffing, not
No,
DEI.
but
Right. It was short. Well, they're
I mean,
short
it could
staffed.
be, I
they're
guess.
short staffed, so they're supposed to have 30. Right now they have 19, and they're at 9:30. They're supposed to this shift is supposed to end, and then one because the airplane traffic is reduced. They have one person watch both, but this happened before 9, and they had
Mhm.
already let that other person go
They
home.
went home
So
early. Mhm.
it's a management issue, and then it just makes you ask questions like, well, why did they send them home? Like,
And
Mm.
of a job, like Des knows this as nurses, we're like essential personnel. Like they have to be staffed, or you got to shut down the hospital.
yeah,
But they
My
don't.
well, to a degree, you know what
We're
I mean.
talking best practices.
Well, but here's my point: is I think air traffic control a little more essential personnel than nurses to a degree. You can have somebody come and put a band-aid on somebody, or even a bandage, or do some stuff that's a little bit above their mark. But air traffic control is a very specialized thing, and
Mhm.
I want to say that aren't they on like for 2 days, and then they like take 2 weeks off, and then it's like
Oh, I don't
another two
know.
days. Like
it's
they have really
I don't know that they're on for 2
it's
days in a
not a
row,
lot.
but it's one of the
It's
most stressful jobs apparently that
ever.
you can have. Yeah.
I know that they it's like something crazy, like 1 or 2 days, maybe 3 days, and then they take like a week off. Like it's high stress. You know what
So
I mean?
we can talk more about the DEI thing here in a second, but so
So
then
Poor
can I ask you this?
choice.
Did
it,
the helicopter
Yeah.
hit the plane, or did the plane hit the helicopter?
the helicopter hit the plane.
Yeah, because I thought I heard that the helicopter cut it in half or something.
So if you this plane was on final approach to the runway.
30
From
seconds
what
from
I've
landing.
read, I'm not a pilot, but when you are landing, especially on final approach, the air is yours, baby. Like
Yeah.
everything needs to, nothing needs to get in your way.
You can't move.
You no.
You can't
So
react to anything.
the only thing you could do, I guess, is circle back. But even then, if you're at 500 feet, do you really got enough power to do that and enough
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
speed
not like it's a quick
you're
turn.
gonna stall, you know? So yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not a pilot. I don't, but yeah, it seems from everything that's come out, the airplane was doing exactly what it was supposed to be doing. Where'd this helicopter come from?
Yeah.
Anyway, so the NTSB did recover the black boxes from the cockpits. They have not released any type of recordings from the military helicopter.
Of course not.
Of course not. I mean,
Or will
who
they?
really expected that? Are they going to?
No.
I don't know. They haven't really even released the recordings from the airplane black box. They just kind of released the transcript.
Mhm.
So we don't know what the verbal reaction was. If the pilots were like, "Oh fuck," like what was
I
the
was just gonna
reaction?
say there's probably a lot of cussing.
I mean, I would probably say something colorful like that if I. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
and
then
that's
If they even had time to say anything, I mean,
and that's
well,
the
they
thing.
did say there was a verbal reaction 1 second later, then collision. So I mean, whatever they said was it was probably like, holy, oh shit, or something like that.
Right, right.
I heard something in the news today that looking at the flight data recorder that the plane actually changed pitch at the
Yeah, so
very last second.
I
Yeah,
was
they
just saying that like,
try to get out of the way.
oh shit, pitch up and then collision. So yeah, and
Wow.
we'll talk about some more bank stuff here in a second. Um, they immediately started to recover the bodies from the water. That sounds terrible, but if the crash didn't kill anyone or people when it
Right.
happened, they definitely died in the Potomac if there were any survivors during the collision because there was
Hmm.
frigid water.
It was freezing that night.
Oh yeah, it's cold.
I mean, it's gotten a little better now, but yeah, last week
Yeah.
it was brutal outside.
They tried, they couldn't recover anybody, so then it returned into a recovery effort by Monday. So yesterday they started to remove wreckage from the river, and as of today, they have reported that the remains of all 67 people have been identified. So
Wow.
Oh, the last I heard they hadn't found everybody. That's good.
yeah,
I mean,
that just came out today
considering the situation.
because I was pulling shit up out of the water. You're gonna
But I
uncover some
understand why
peeps.
they did that, because even the plane that hit the George Washington Bridge, they saved an amount of people. I don't know how many, but I know they saved people from
Oh,
that.
you mean the 14th Street
14,
Bridge
I'm sorry,
from
14th Street Bridge. Yeah,
82? Only a handful survived that. Yeah,
but
it
still,
wasn't many.
there were people that survived, so that's why they get out there as quickly as possible, especially frigid waters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And this, I mean, it wasn't like, randos diving in the water. I mean, it was trained divers. They
yeah,
probably have
probably
wetsuits. I
staying at
mean,
the
this is
airport.
not, yeah.
I mean,
There's people trained for that.
there were emergency people from what I heard on the scene, like in the water where it went down. I mean, within minutes
Mm-hmm.
from what
Good
I
on
heard.
good on them. Everything's not broken.
But
Yeah.
the other thing that's weird about that river, and I just had this thought, I'd love to look into this, but the Potomac, and, it's a river, it flows north to south, but it's also extremely tidal. I mean, its level goes up and down, and there's, if you kayak down there, there's kayakers a lot up north and south of there. The level of the river goes up and down. There's like, muddy shoreline that gets exposed and comes. So I'm just wondering, like, they may have any debris could have just gone. Like,
Mhm.
I think there's some that's probably miles down if not more than that
Oh,
by now.
absolutely.
I'm just wondering how they even collect that stuff,
You
It's
know,
not like a lake where it all just sits there.
Yeah.
well, I mean, they have, I don't know, there's probably someone that knows about waves and titles
Yeah,
and can.
where it's going.
So
The
do we
one-
know anything about the pilots of these planes?
Well, hold on. I was going to say the one thing I do think, if there's any silver lining to this, which there's not, but at least they didn't see it coming.
No,
And I'm
literally,
sure they died instantly
I'm sure.
because that was I mean, jet fuel is hot and it burns. And I'm sure that explosion killed everyone. And if it didn't kill them, it put them out to where they didn't.
Oh yeah,
And,
not
and falling that
instantly.
far.
I mean, it just boom. They didn't even know it was coming. So,
Okay.
I mean, I
We're
would
gonna have to
definitely,
watch
if
this
I had to choose a way to die in a plane crash, that would be it. Because then the following plane crash where it just falls out of the sky, no thank you. That is my worst fear.
Hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, at least
I can't wait to talk about that one, because
it
that one
wasn't.
is the squirrelier of the two, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't think so.
This plane apparently was only going like 150 miles an hour.
Yeah, because it was
I mean, 'cause
landing.
it was landing. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too that you can identify with. I mean, how many times have you been on a plane and you're looking out the window and you've got your stuff already, you put your gum away and all the stuff, your book, and you're
People
looking
have
out the
turned their
window
phones off of airplane mode at this point when they were landing. Like
and
they were that close.
you're seeing the
Wait,
lights and the
wasn't there
land.
a story about a message that was
Yeah.
sent?
Yeah, because they were close enough to the ground that the girl could turn her phone off of airplane mode.
And she
And
sent like a
texted
message,
somebody.
I'll be there in 10 minutes.
Landing now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, they interviewed that guy at the
Yeah,
airport, and he said his wife was texting him, like obviously that she was about to land. And you guys were talking about the media being like just awful. The reporter on the ground, the field reporter who interviewed the guy, supposedly asked him if she could see the text.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my
oh,
God.
piece of shit.
No, you
God,
fucking.
we got it. You know what? Trump's got to do something about the
I
media.
really hope.
I
Did you
mean,
guys
this
see?
is fucking barbaric.
Did you guys watch the NTSB media briefing when they had said that the one about the altitude? Did y'all watch
No,
that? Oh
no.
my God, this guy was getting so pissed because he probably repeated the thing about the altitude 7 times. And the reporters just kept asking him the same fucking question. He's like, I have answered this question 4 times now.
Because they're looking for
Asked
I
and
this.
just
answered.
said.
Yeah.
And he was
No,
getting so
he's
pissed. Anyway,
What were they asking him?
because the discrepancy about the height, basically what the guy said was we don't have the data from the flight recorder from the helicopter, but from air traffic control, that data shows that the helicopter was flying at 200 feet, which poses a discrepancy if the airplane was at 325 feet or 300, whatever you want to say,
Right.
because they collided. So therefore, the helicopter could not have been at 200 feet. The maths make sense. I don't know why any of these reporters couldn't fucking get that through their heads.
And the other thing is, at that point in the flight, the plane, from what I understand, is pretty much in auto mode. I mean, it's landing. There's
yeah,
nothing
it's
to
working with the
do.
ILS.
But whereas
Yeah.
the helicopter was on VFR, like visual flight rules.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they weren't flying on instruments. They were
Not
flying.
not to go too tangential, but I really get the feeling that we're gonna get one of these. We're gonna our next big shooting thing is gonna be at one of these news organizations because somebody's just gonna be
Here we
fed up.
go.
I really feel like that's gonna happen because that is fucking barbaric, insensitive. Let me see the phone like he's a fucking liar. No, you err on the side of caution and assume he's telling the truth
I
until
would have, you know what? I would have said some choice words to that fool, and then I would have said, "Give me that fucking tape, the interview I just did, because fuck you. And if you do put this on the news, I will sue the shit out of you because I no longer I redact my permission of this interview.
Hmm.
Like fuck you and your insensitive ass. Like,
But
oof.
they're
like
not thinking
that
that
is the
because
kind of behavior that is going to cause one of these extreme situations. Unfortunately, due to the political parties, it's probably going to be something at Fox News who doesn't necessarily do these things on a regular. I'm sure they do it a little bit. I mean,
look,
they're a news organization at the end of the day, but it's probably going to be on something right because the left just, oddly enough, wouldn't have said this back in the 80s, chooses violence.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, let's talk
Had to
about
make
the
it political, sorry.
let's talk about the Swiss cheese model. Now, this is a plane crash. What happens every type of plane accident? Not anything. NTSB investigates. Okay. Now, this might take we might not know really the final report for like a year. However, they do these investigations and it's very similar to healthcare, except for I think the airline industry is very far above how we do it in healthcare. But
They
this
have
is
to be.
we use the same Swiss cheese model in healthcare. Do you guys
I'm
know
not
what I'm
familiar with it.
Just
No.
elaborate a little bit, yeah.
Okay, so if you think of a Swiss cheese model is, a
Mm.
piece of Swiss cheese,
Mm.
it's got holes.
Yes.
Fill the
So if
hole.
you were to take several pieces of Swiss cheese and line them up, each piece of Swiss cheese represents a fail stop to the end result,
Okay.
the catastrophic event, the never the what they call them, never events. Yeah, I think so. So we call them healthcare, which is like a death or an injury.
A sentinel event.
A sentinel event. That's what I'm thinking of. A never event or a sentinel event.
Yeah.
So, but if those, if each one of those Swiss cheeses is positioned correctly and all of the holes line up, then every fail-safe has now failed
Mhm.
Right.
and it leads to a sentinel event. But so basically what it's saying is not everything is caused by one thing.
Almost
There
none,
might
no
be a root
things.
cause.
Yeah.
However, even the root cause has, well, if this didn't happen, you know what I mean? Like, so that's what the airline industry uses, Swiss cheese model,
A lot
just like
has to go
healthcare.
wrong
A
for
lot has
things
to
to
go
go
wrong to
wrong.
reach the final event.
And there's
Far more in air flight than in nursing.
I don't I don't
I wouldn't
remember.
I wouldn't think I think that it's the same, except for I think that healthcare cuts a lot more corners, and I mean, the airline industry just takes it much more seriously, and they should.
I
They
mean,
should.
But
They have hundreds of lives that can die in one mistake, whereas in nursing or doctoring or whatever, it's one at a time. It's not,
yeah,
short of the hospital catching on fire, and that's really not the medical thing. That's the fire, whatever. So yeah, they have a lot of lives always in their hands at any given moment. It's not like a plane crashes and one person dies. That's
yeah,
not going to happen
yeah,
very.
lots of die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's always multiple.
yeah, I mean, it's a lot of things. I can't remember the number. I remember reading it at some point, but I think it's like five or six or seven things have to go wrong for a plane to crash. I mean, it's not just one thing, it's not just two things, and there's so much redundancy. And part of the reason the NTSB does such thorough investigations, and that because they're not a news agency. I mean, and what Desiree was saying, yeah, the report
They're
is going to be like
nonpartisan.
12 to 18 months away. They said they're going to release a preliminary one in 30 days, but they're not a news organization. Their purpose for existing is to find out without question what the cause is so they can work those fixes back into the system. It's supposed to be a
And
self-improving system
yeah,
over
and
time.
the purpose is to find the problem.
Yep.
It's not meant to punish. It's meant to
It's not
find the issue
Yeah, it's not
correct.
punitive. No, not at
and
all.
Correct. Yes.
correct the issue so it
Yep.
doesn't happen again. So, I you would think this is a very intense process. I was involved recently in a root cause analysis, a Swiss cheese model investigation, where I work for something that I thought was like the most obvious thing, but they really go and they dig deep into what could have been, so what could we solve each point along the way to fix this. It
Yeah.
was so it's intense. Here's some of the things that if I was writing if me as the NTSB and putting in my maybe thoughts. Okay. The pilot of the helicopter, here's what we know about her. She had 500 hours of flight training, period. Not in the Blackhawk,
Not in the Black Hawk only, or not never in the Black Hawk.
Just
period,
ever.
ever.
She'd never been in a Black Hawk
No, I don't
helicopter
know.
before.
I don't know where those hours. I don't know.
They're just helicopter hours, is
Yeah,
what you're saying. Okay.
500.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how many you're supposed to have. This was a training flight.
Was she the pilot? Was she under control of,
She was
was
the
she in
pilot.
control? Okay.
hmm So I don't know. I don't. Again, I don't know what the military says that how many flight hours you should or you need or what are required or whatever.
To be anywhere near an airport.
But for if you were going to fly that CRJ, you have to have at least 1,500 hours of flight time before
Before
you
you
can
can,
even look at that cockpit and think about, and then you got to be first officer for a while.
yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what the military
I
says.
know one of the other people on the helicopter, they said had over 1,000. I don't know about the third person, but yes, it was a training flight. So
The third person was the crew
yeah,
chief, so they're not necessarily, I don't know how, again,
they're not
I'm
a
not a
pilot.
pilot.
Yeah.
They're not a pilot, but I don't know if,
I mean,
yeah.
you definitely have to have people train in order to get those hours, but like what Jack or how Carl was saying, like, does it have to be there? Like, does it have to be like right next to one of the busiest airports,
Yeah,
on the
seems
East
weird.
Coast for its size?
Then there was three people in this Blackhawk. There's best practices four, from what I've read. But there were three. Not saying that it's impossible to do with three, but best practices four. Because, four sets of eyes, you can see more vantage points, I guess. Never flown in a Blackhawk. Again, this is a training flight. I guess that they do this a lot. They train a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They said it was a doomsday
Yeah,
crew
like they were training
test.
to, like if you had to evacuate some people from the White House or something,
Yeah.
some very important people. So there's one. Yeah, she was a woman. I don't think that that plays into
No.
anything,
I don't
honestly.
either.
I'm more curious about the 500 hours bit. But anyway, then the altitude discrepancy. Again, we've talked about that. Why was there a discrepancy? Why was air traffic control seeing that helicopter at 200 feet when it clearly was not at 200 feet? Because there was a collision.
Mhm.
Another thing I was kind of thinking about earlier, it could be that A, the radar was off in the air traffic control, or B, which is probably not correct because I don't know how it works, but it maybe was more likely that the altimeter in the helicopter was malfunctioned, not working properly, or just learned this about 4 hours ago. Altimeters, you have to calibrate that altimeter to the area that you're in every time you fly, every time you take off. Was that
Like
altimeter?
topographically, like if you're in the mountains, if you're
Yeah,
on.
because it goes by barometric pressure
Gotcha. Makes
or
sense.
Oh, copy.
atmospheric pressure.
So I wonder if
Yeah, Des,
temperature
you're an
would
expert on
affect that.
everything.
I just read it.
Okay.
Wow.
Temperatures, it's pressure.
And the thing is but doesn't, well, temperature can, I guess it can affect pressure, but to your point, so the difference between 200 feet and 325 feet, is 125 feet, which is
Good
a
job.
lot, but when you're flying, it's not a lot.
And
It's a
there's and
fart.
there's
It's a
Especially
there's a
you're
fart
little
flying
bit
at
of
compared.
high
variation.
speeds.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm just saying that's interesting because that is a wow,
It
calibration. That would be
could be
crazy.
that. Could be that. I don't know. I'm just saying. Me as the NTSB, which is not the NTSB, but
Well,
the DNTSB.
Hmm.
if Timmy two times in the army, who's in charge of checking the altimeters, effed up, he may be halfway to Albuquerque by
Now,
now.
I hope you didn't
But it
mention
would be
while
the
I was
military.
gone.
So the military pilot. I mean, the military is a little bit different.
The
The
pilots have to do it.
military or the crew chief would have been.
The
It was either
one.
the pilot or the crew chief responsible for calibrating the altimeter because you have to do it every time you take off or before
Wow.
every time you take off. Was it
Here's
calibrated?
my
Good job.
question. I hope you didn't answer it while I was gone. I heard, and this could be, they say a lot of shit. I heard that this was a training mission for
Yeah.
the Blackhawk.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. She only had 500 hours, and I guess you
Yeah.
need quite a bit
We
more
don't
than
know.
that
I
usually.
would assume, I don't know what the military says that the amount of hours you have to be flying a Black Hawk. I would assume it'd be more than 500. I don't know. Um, but
Yeah,
then
but
the guy training her only had 1,000. It just seems a little low.
that's a
But again,
major flub, though. I mean, obviously, um, to be that far off and just not in your zone to be, you know,
The other thing
the
that oh, I'm sorry. I mean, one last piece, and you may be getting to this, but also it wasn't just the altitude that the Black Hawk was at. That the helicopter alley, apparently, I don't know this, is
yeah.
on the DC Maryland side of the Potomac there, and this collision happened much closer to the Virginia side.
hmm.
Yeah, so apparently the helicopters are supposed to hug the bank.
Hmm.
This helicopter was off path because okay, if this hand is the airplane, we're gonna do this airplane.
That's
Yes.
a very good airplane, Des.
Yeah.
And this
Look
is
at
the
the
helicopter.
wings. Yeah.
This is the helicopter. Okay.
That's
So
some weird opposite Vulcan shit she's doing there.
so if you're supposed to, I don't know.
Oh,
If you're supposed to just fly along the bank, the helicopter was doing this. Like
yeah.
it was
Going out.
Do you remember, was it windy that night or
no, it was perfect, apparently.
okay.
I don't know. No, yeah, I don't know. I did see somebody saying that they could have veered off path for any reason, flock of birds, which I'm
Or it
like,
was a bird strike.
flock of birds for a whirly bird is a no
I
problem.
ran. Oh, fuck a
Yeah, no
seagull.
bird's going to get close to a Black Hawk, I don't
First of
think.
all, it's gonna blow the birds away. And then if it does hit them, they're gonna get fucking chopped up. I mean, birds are not
Oh,
a
hold
issue
on.
for a woolly bird.
Don't Blackhawks have like turbines like
Yeah,
Apache?
double
So
turbine.
it could have caused real damage. That could have caused a
A
problem if
bird
they
strike?
getting caught in the turbines. That could do things, I'm sure, too.
Yeah, but it has a roto wing.
Six
Yeah, but it also
blades
has jets on the side.
on the top side. Yeah.
If I'm
Uh,
not mistaken, I'll look
It
up.
is. No, it's a jet. It's two jet engines on a Blackhawk.
anyway, it was off, of course, for we don't know what the reason for that was. Anyway, now here's another thing that I came up with this one.
Yeah.
This is a good one. Okay, so again, helicopter. Or I mean, fuck, airplane. Okay. Airplanes
Oh,
like this, flying at 325 feet, right? So
Yeah.
that's measuring from the belly. Now, when it was coming, so it was going on runway 1, right? Then it had to turn to circle around and bank that turn. So now we're like this.
Mm.
See?
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is a
yeah.
wing. This is
Yeah,
a
yeah,
wing.
yeah.
This is left wing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're making that final circle back before they straighten out and land, okay?
Yep.
So three, whatever, what is at the belly. However, on a CRJ, because I looked it up, thank you, Google, the length of one wing is close to 40 feet. So
Mm.
now you have just cut a lot of space off of that little
Altitude.
leeway you got.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Because and then when that helicopter, because and we know this happened because when that helicopter hit, it hit right here on the plane where the wing that left wing is. Because you can see that there's a green light on the left wing, red on the right. So the wing separated from the fuselage basically split it. The wing falls off. You can see the green light
Going
hitting
down.
the water, and then the fuselage coming.
which
And
may
then
I
what's
add,
in the
I
wings?
on our drone episode.
What's in the wings of an airplane? Fuel.
Gas.
It hits that wing,
Yeah.
bursts immediately. I mean, that had to have been a little bit of what happened. I mean, so then this brings me to my other thing. Everyone, we were all thinking, how the fuck do you not see a jet landing? It's got lights, right? Okay,
If
airplane.
it's turned.
Airplane. Okay, this is straight ahead. The landing lights come off of the airplane. There's some in the front and some like right here that also, but they're focused forward. They're not like headlights that kind of like fan out to like
They're more to
illuminate
they're more
the
to
whole area.
on the ground the
They're
direction.
focused forward and a little bit down, not around. So if you're airplane lights, if you're banking, so now you're turned and the nose is this way and something is coming from over here, they're not seeing lights. They're gonna hit you.
Well, you
Yeah.
saw
Sense.
you saw the impact. Is that what it looks like happened, or
Yeah, I mean it splits from the wing, the fuselage then,
Breaks
wing,
up and
fuselage.
goes down.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know. That's just my own theory.
Yeah, I mean,
Pretty good one.
it seems likely? Yeah.
And then the direction of the American Airlines landing. Oh, we just talked about that.
yeah, that changed.
So they really couldn't see the helicopter could not really see the airplane. So I mean, when the really big problem is there was another CRJ taking off from runway 1 taking off and turning. You know how airplanes do. You always fucking turn when you get off the runway.
I know how they do.
You know how they do.
I don't know how they
So
do.
when the
Tell us what happened.
helicopter was like, yeah, we have the CRJ in sight.
It may have been the wrong one.
It may have been the wrong one. So
Wow.
they're like, yeah, we have it in sight. Request visual separation. What the fuck?
Meanwhile,
I
it's
don't
over
see no
here.
airplane.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they can't see it. So when they said pass behind the CRJ, they're like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. I don't know. But I mean, they don't see it. So they're like, yeah, cool, request visual separation.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck they're talking about. Boom. Because they couldn't see it. And then that brings in the night vision goggle things, which would have made it a lot worse, apparently, because they're not very reliable when there's a lot of light.
And
And
they
they're right
also
over Alexandria. It's right at Old Town Alexandria, which is lit up at night.
and they're also you get kind of tunnel vision with those things, I hear.
Mhm.
You don't have a lot of peripheral.
Yeah.
Right, it gets worse as you're the longer you're using them. Yeah, I would
And
think.
so I don't know why you would need to use I know this is a training mission, but I don't know why you would need to use night goggles when night goggles aren't really called for that area. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we don't know if they were or were not using them. because that was part of the military helicopter. I mean, and we're not going to know a lot about that helicopter for quite a while, I'm sure, because it's the
I mean,
fucking military.
here's my guess at the end of the day with this when this thing comes out, and we may even see it in the preliminary. My gut feeling after like just reading what I've read and really listening to you, Desiree, and just seeing stuff here and there. Again, I haven't been on super on top of this, but to me, it's just it the Swiss cheese is the airport's not built for that amount of traffic.
Hmm.
It's definitely not a good idea to have, you know, dozens and dozens and dozens of helicopters a day flying
Hmm.
through there. They were understaffed. They had 19
Yeah.
controllers. They should have had 30. I mean, this is a systemic. I mean, you want to talk about systemic? It's a bunch of F ups. I mean, this was
Yeah.
entirely preventable. I mean, when it gets down to did the Black Hawk pilot see them or were there lights? Like there was already 15 things wrong.
Yep, there were already holes. It
It
was going to
shouldn't
happen.
they shouldn't even had to
If
get
they
to
were
that
gonna,
point.
if you had a bet, like what should not have happened, which I guess happens a lot, is they should not have redirected the flight from runway 1 to
The
runway
33.
33. This would have never happened.
Well,
How
if
were they
the
to know that this
helicopter
was going to
hadn't been
happen? I don't
there,
know.
if the helicopter hadn't been there, this would not have happened.
Also, if the helicopter hadn't veered off the path, this wouldn't have happened. If it stayed
So,
on its little helicopter route, Route 4, Route 1, I don't really know which one, and
so
didn't veer off from the bank, then it wouldn't have collided.
Yeah.
Also, if the altitude was like it was supposed to be, which we don't know why the discrepancy is there, but I
well,
guess they'll
here's
look into
my
that
thing.
too.
I just watched the video, much to my chagrin, and well, clearly they're at the same altitude, so
Yeah.
fuck all that. Um, but man, it looked like the helicopter was aiming for the plane.
That's it, just
There were,
boom.
I mean,
There was no attempt.
I didn't
I'm
see any
not a
brake
measuring
lights.
expert, but it looks like it was a couple, maybe a 3 football fields away on the video that I saw before it ever made impact. And what you said does make a lot of sense because the lights were kind of veering one
Yeah,
way.
you can
If
see the
they're
planes like this kind of for a while.
and if they're not looking in front of them because they hear that there's a plane over here, or they look and see a plane, somebody says there's a plane, they see that plane. Meanwhile, the plane that they're talking about is right in front of them. That makes a whole lot of sense.
The thing is that is troubling as well that no one I don't know. It doesn't seem like there was extra effort put into this. I've always heard with airplanes, the most dangerous time of an airplane flight is taking off. The second most dangerous is
Is
landing.
landing.
And helicopters probably the same. So
I don't
you're
know. I don't think so. They just go down.
but I guess what I'm saying is both of these craft were engaged in high risk, like the highest risk portion of their trips when this happened. Like they should be like
I don't.
focused. Like I don't think. I
I'm
mean,
going
were
to
they thumb
argue that the
wrestling? Like,
helicopter wasn't intending to land, so it
I
wasn't
don't
the.
think it was intending to land
but
either.
So
true. No, that's a good point. But it had recently taken off. It had just left Fort Belvoir. I thought, like just
yeah,
No,
that's
minutes
that's
earlier.
about
no,
40 miles,
No.
isn't it?
Davison?
Oh,
Is that a
Davison.
yeah.
I'm not familiar with that. I don't
It's
know.
I think it's
apparently
pretty
in
far.
Bethesda or
Oh,
near
wow.
Bethesda.
Okay. Really? There's a
That's what they said. That's what something said.
Listen, you don't
wow.
think there's military flight
No, there is. Right across the street from my
everywhere in this
office
area?
is a spook castle. There's like no signage. It's all like intelligence. There's nothing on the building
I,
other than the address that
I
tells you
used to
what's
live
there.
over next. I want to say it's McDill, next to Sheffield Court condominiums. You know what I'm talking about, Mike? Route 50 heading into DC. That military post
Yeah, oh,
that's
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. No, I know what you mean.
That's
Yeah,
McDill, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, there's always never planes. Not that I recall.
But
I want to say
helicopters.
that I did hear that this was back when Bush was in the presidency that he flew out of there. So probably there were planes, but definite helicopters all the time. That place,
So
I'd say the DC area next to like maybe New York, LA, a couple other major cities is probably one of the more highly congested with helicopters.
yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
you see them all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, in the US. And oddly, on 9/11, I'm sorry, Des.
okay.
On 9/11, go back to that. I worked on 395, and as I think we all probably know that the pilots that hit the Pentagon, they use 395 as a guidepost. They just follow 395, and it takes them right to the Pentagon. And that area this is the weird thing is we heard planes over us, and you never hear planes in that particular area because you got the Pentagon there, direct line if you use 395 to the White House. And we heard planes, and they were close, like rumbling the building. You know Mark Towers, Mike? Tall building. It's right on 395 and Seminary. But yeah, I'm sorry, I digressed a little, but yeah, it seems peculiar that we don't have better maintenance of their routes.
I think they're definitely to be rerouting the routes maybe and just looking at it in a different light.
It's a very trafficked in the air area for how many restricted areas there are.
Yeah.
Well,
Why is there so many helicopters on a daily basis just dicking around? That's what I don't get.
Well,
I mean,
you
I
got
guess
like
you gotta do
three
the testing things.
airposts.
But what are they doing? Just flying around?
They're probably patrolling and keeping the place safe. Just
there are powerful people.
So they need a Blackhawk to do that? I'm sorry,
yeah,
but I mean
yeah.
they need because they're getting shot at all the time. They need Blackhawks.
No, it's a defensive measure. It's so that if somebody does try and come at the White House, they can take it down. That's why they're there. Blackhawks are very versatile. I think a Blackhawk can actually do a full loop. Like they're very versatile.
Yeah, so you could have seen it and said, "Shit." I mean,
but then
they're
training
big.
mission, you got to throw in training mission 500 hours into that, and
I heard someone say that there's like 50 different agencies that fly helicopters in DC.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just astonishing. I mean,
Yeah,
plus
think about this.
media and
Let's think
everyone
about
else.
this. Let's think about sure, you've got 30 people that are just managing the airplanes, but are they just managing the helicopters? Are they just managing the helicopters that aren't covert, or are they just managing the commercial ones, and then the military post is handling do you see what I'm
so
saying?
you have like your airspace traffic. You have like apparently you have your ones they call them locals. Those are the ones in the tower, and they only do like landing, deep taking off, and then
Like 5
everything on
miles
the
out,
ground.
something like that.
And then apparently like the helicopters. Once you take off and do that turn, you get handed off to somebody else
But that's what I'm saying.
in the air traffic control world.
Is it just the helicopters that are commercial?
No, it's
Private?
everyone.
It's
everyone.
CIA, Black Op stuff, and everything else.
Mhm.
Okay.
So they're gonna definitely be looking at that. The other thing too is TCAS. You guys heard of TCAS?
Just since last week.
TCAS is part of the you know what ILI, whatever.
ILS.
Instrument, whatever the fuck it's called. That's the landing. But there's so many like acronyms and things,
ILS can practically once you turn on the ILS, if I'm understanding it correctly, the plane's pretty much landing itself. Yeah.
So TCAS is traffic. It keeps planes from crashing. Okay.
It's a discombobulator.
Yeah. So when you hear the word transponder.
Yeah.
That's how the plane's TCASs talk to each other.
Weird.
Yeah. It's basically, like in your car, like if you have a newer car and you do the backup camera and then it has the picture of the top of your car.
Yeah.
You're like, how the fuck does it know? It's because of sonar. And that's basically what the TCAS does is it sends out these sonars, and it creates an environment within 1,000 feet, a bubble.
Yeah.
Of you.
It's kind of like
airplanes
on the submarines when they show everything.
Yeah, so then if they're like crossing each other and this bubble gets in this bubble, it will tell the airplanes traffic, alerting you, hey, there's some people around. Now, if you get within 500 feet, let's just say, it'll say traffic ascend or whatever it's going to tell you to do. Or traffic descend, or it gives this plane a direction and this plane a direction so they can avoid each other. Or if you're getting close to the ground, it'll be like, pull up, train. Like it tells you like some shit's gonna happen. You need to do this.
Wouldn't it be crazy? Wouldn't it be crazy to find out that this mishap had something to do with some like integration of AI into all this stuff?
It didn't, but actually maybe AI would help. So
Just a curiosity. AI also spelled friends wrong. Let's keep that in mind.
yeah. So TCAS was in because they had the traffic alert in the airplane. They heard that. Now TCAS, once you get to so under 1,500 feet, it only gives like those alerts. It doesn't give you any direction, because the thought is if you're low enough, you don't need to be moving around because you're too low to the ground. So it doesn't tell you anything, like, unless you're getting to the terrain. They're like terrain. But then when you get to 400 feet, it stops alerting you completely. So when the airplane hit an altitude of 500 feet, it said traffic. Well, what's after 500? 400. Well, they're landing. So that's going to be the only, and a lot of pilots say when you're in an airspace, a busy airspace, you don't even pay attention to it because there's so much shit around. I mean, there's going to be some traffic.
Yeah.
You have to rely on your instruments.
Yeah, not the TCAS, because the TCAS, it's kind of like having, what somebody explained, it's kind of like having a Ring doorbell when you're trying to have a party. That thing is going to be like, door, motion. Like, fucking course there's motion. But at 1 in the morning, you need to know if there's motion.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they don't really pay attention to it. And then also, at under 400 feet, doesn't even do anything. Then the military, because it works with transponders, doesn't have TCAS. Or maybe it does, it just doesn't. I don't really know. But because it doesn't want other aircraft to see it, doesn't have that transponder. Maybe if they're going to be fucking flying in that area, maybe they need to use them. And if they are going to be doing a mission where they don't need to be seen, they can turn it off, because you can turn that off. I don't know. But again, if they're only flying at 200, it's not going to work. So maybe, I don't know.
I don't see how anyone can justify having a helicopter flying within a mile of National Airport anymore. I mean,
yeah, no shit.
Like, why do you even have to be near it? I mean,
I'm going to go with defense again. What if like, we all heard about the plane that hit in Pennsylvania, that it may have been shot down by our guys? What if there's a situation where you save 1,000 people by taking down a plane? I know that's awful, but again, you save 1,000 people.
I'm talking about a mile, though. A Blackhawk can fly in a mile in like,
yeah, those jets provide like 3,000 horsepower. Yeah, so they could, but
if a plane landing is compromised by a Blackhawk helicopter veering less than quarter of a mile off their flight path, that's dangerous.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Bird swerve.
Yeah, I guess a mile. Yeah, maybe a mile's fine.
Or whatever. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I'm just saying, it seems to me it's like, just don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
again, I don't think DEI had anything to do with this. And I mean, maybe if you really go back a lot, or Swiss cheese holes, maybe. But but
the reason why it's being implicated, and this is my understanding, is going back to the air traffic control booth being very short-staffed.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the reason, supposedly, and this is one article I read, they have the budget to have as many employees as they need. They literally had hundreds of qualified applicants not hired because they didn't check certain boxes. In other words, it's like the LA firemen. You're too white, male, and straight to have this job. And we want more people with like mental health issues and physical limitations. Like they literally had that.
When you need to be able to see out of those windows.
Yeah, we want more dwarves, man. I mean, come on.
And somebody with a mental illness, I'm sorry, but you cannot have a mental.
It takes a special kind of person to work in the air traffic control booth.
It's stressful. If anything happens, your mind is fucked. And I mean, what if you just have a person off their meds? Fuck it, I'm just gonna crash them in these places.
Right.
You know what I mean?
One of the qualities that we need from our police, our firefighters, our pilots is mental stability.
Yeah, I'd say.
Further than that, mental resilience. You can take stress and put it in a dark little pit in your belly.
Well, supposedly,
when you're at home.
Supposedly, like even the life expectancy of these guys is lower, like on average. Like the stress gets to these people
Yeah.
And, it's internal, and they
Oh,
bring it
but there's a
home.
lot of alcoholism, a lot of heart attacks,
Yeah.
all that. Yeah.
If
So
then I think the very similar article maybe was the same one that you were reading, Hot Carl. It was saying that so the memo put out by the FAA or the people that run the air traffic controllers or whatever with the we want to hire more people with this, that, and the third, not the smartest, brightest crayons in the box, basically.
Right.
Because of that, so if you fall in this category, come apply, we'll hire you. Just you don't got to take none of them fucking entrance exams. Come on down. But well, they're
they
not. They're
come into the
personality tests. Like the entrance exams are their personality tests, basically. But they're impossible to pass, basically.
Right.
They're not like
They're
like
not
a
designed to pass. Yeah.
yeah. So the people that are actually qualified can't even pass the entrance personality test thing to get
No,
into the
so
fucking
it's
program.
gotcha.
Yeah, like the
So
Myers-Briggs.
The thing that always has been amazing me about the people that are so adamantly against DEI, they tend not to even understand the point that if you're not hiring solely on merit, then you're not getting the best people. And
Right.
it's not
Done,
that those
done.
people it's not that those people can't do it or they aren't as good. It's like if
if
it's a
I was on a
double
soccer team, I would need
it
to be able to kick a ball.
it's
I
it
couldn't
plus
be legless.
the thing I don't understand with people that support DEI is, don't you see it's a double-edged sword? Because if it exists, then when stuff like this happens, you're going to get Trump going off half-cocked, being like, "Oh, it's DEI," and people are going to assume that. Whereas, wouldn't you want a situation where if you are a pilot, you're like, "Yeah, man, I'm not good. There is no
You
DEI.
know
Like,
where
I just
DEI,
did it. I'm just awesome. Like,
know what I think? I
I've
I'm a
think
always said that
midget.
about medical
I'm a
school before
blind
the DEI
midget
came
from
along, but
Alaska, and I'm missing two arms, and I'm the best. I can land this plane better than anybody.
yeah, I can
You know what
fly
I
this
mean?
fucking plane with my feet.
Yeah.
Here's the
Mm.
thing.
Wouldn't you want that? Like if
I
you're
think so too, and I don't know,
you don't
but
want you don't want to get the hairy eyeballs from everybody. Like,
You know,
oh, here comes the
you know where
DEI
in this
person.
DEI,
particular situation, though, it doesn't seem like it was anything like
No.
that with air traffic control. Why was that sixth person sent home? We don't know.
Yeah.
But there was at the beginning of that shift, there was six people in the tower,
here's
like
my
there was
thing.
supposed to be.
Let's keep DEI, but let's apply it to the jobs that it fits in. Running an art gallery,
Well,
fashion design.
it doesn't. It's just horrible.
No,
It's
but you know what I'm
racism.
saying? Like, there are places
Yeah,
where,
no, it's actually a violation of the Constitution.
Yeah. It's
It
discriminatory.
kind of
no,
is.
but I'm saying if they're going to keep it, let's apply it where it doesn't do damage. I
Yeah.
want, I
Let's
want
not
the
keep it.
oldest, most grizzled pilot took two planes down in Nam and everybody survived. I want that motherfucker flying my
I mean, the
plane
military says
every
in order
time.
to fly a plane or a helicopter, you have to have 20/20 vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a requirement. I can't have a blind person flying the plane.
Or
Yeah.
a dwarf. Or a dwarf. No offense, love my
Anyway,
dwarf. Peter Dinklage is the bomb.
so
Well,
then the
yeah.
very next, well, not the very next day, the 30th of January.
Okay, now we
Now we got planes falling out the sky.
can.
I just want to say sometimes I think I'm clairvoyant, and here's why. The very first thought that I had, remember when we were coming back in the taxi to
Mm-hmm.
the resort? When I saw that helicopter, it was before it was reported as a blackhawk. It was like the Sikorsky or whatever. And I was like, what is that? And Craig was like, it's like a bigger helicopter. And I said,
Bigger, badder helicopter.
man, I hope it wasn't a medevac chopper. That's what I said.
Wow. And that's what the plane
The
was.
fucking next, or 2 days later, a medevac airplane, a fixed wing air ambulance that could have a capacity of six people. It had on this one, two pilots, one doctor, one crew member, the patient, and the patient's parent. Yes, it was a pediatric patient. The patient was in the States. They were from Mexico. They were getting treatment for this illness that they had, which that's kind of sad. I mean, that's sad.
It's horrible.
Awesome.
So, the plane was taking off from a smaller airport in Philadelphia, like these do. These smaller, these six-seater Cessnas, as they say.
Isn't it? It was like a Learjet or something.
It was a
Yeah,
Learjet.
it's a Learjet, yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know why I had two pilots on it, to be honest. I mean, whatever.
Medevac,
But
maybe they're
you
doubling
don't have
their.
to have two pilots. I've been on fixed wing before. You don't have to, and I've also been on roto wing. Meh. Anyway, so yeah, so this plane takes off. It was going to somewhere in Missouri, Springfield, Missouri,
Oh
Missouri,
wow.
Missouri.
Missouri. The end letter is an I, not an A. Anyway, Missouri. This helicopter, or sorry, this fixed wing aircraft takes off. They radio in, good day. Bleh. Then it was in the air 40 seconds and then stalls out, fucking like nose first. And these are crazy. I mean, if you can you
But did it
imagine?
stall? Dude,
I mean, it had to have
it
stalled.
looked like a missile flying down.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
know
it
because it
looked
that
like it
was
was,
was
my
under
conspiracy
full.
thing. It looked
yeah.
like it was aiming.
Well, I mean, yeah, it like
I heard this is just
when you're
little.
taking off and it stalls, that's what happens is it barrels over and nose down.
It
But
also
it
looked
was.
like there was flames coming from it.
It almost looked like it was accelerating to me. I mean, it
Yeah,
looked like it like when you see those JDAN missiles hit, from the you see like, it was just like boom.
Well, it
They
was
said,
accelerating because of physics.
"Oh, that's
Right.
true too."
Yeah, gravity.
I
If you have, an object falling from the sky, acceleration times
actually, though,
or
it
gravity times weight or
go
something equals
now to go
acceleration. I don't fucking
faster.
know.
It actually has to be accelerated because everything falls at the same speed.
I'm just saying it looked to me like it was speeding up, but
It did.
the thing that I heard that blew my mind was they said when they recovered the black box, it was 8 feet below grade. It was
Did you see that
eight
pole
feet below the street level. I mean, that's just, I
created
mean,
a crater?
you're not just hitting asphalt concrete, you're hitting compacted earth that
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere. And and it went down 8 feet. I mean, that's just amazing. That's just crazy. That's just crazy.
Well, the plane had to have stalled out like that because the angle, you can't turn an aircraft like that on purpose. You can't do it because all the things will correct you to not do that.
Yeah.
Just like if you were taking off and you were like too high up, you can't do that either because it'll be like, hey, stop because you're gonna stall. It'll try to
Yeah,
correct you.
but again, it did look like it was accelerating, and that could have been kinetic energy, like
Yeah.
the force that was already driving it. Because yeah, technically, if you drop a 10-pound bowling ball and you drop a plane from the same height, they should be falling at the same rate.
No,
It's like
because of mass.
32.8. What?
Because
No,
each of those items have different masses.
gravity has the same effect on all mass. On
Okay, think about an equation. X times 4 is Y. X times 40 is a larger Y. So, I mean, it's
Yeah.
going to be more. It is going to, if there is a force acting on,
Well, that's why I'm saying the acceleration had something to do with it. I mean, I'm not a fucking physicist or whatever. But that was something I did gather from my limited knowledge of gravity is that everything falls at like 32, 36 feet per second, something like that.
Squared,
And
squared.
if it left a crater, one
30.
would also that would also indicate that maybe there's a little more force involved there. Now, how the mass affects what it hits, that could also,
yeah, because
be the size of the hole. Let's get a
I'm about
physics.
to, I'm going to get,
Get a
I'm
flat
going to
earth.
get, okay, so we're going to move on about this argument. So, again, it falls out of the sky. My worst fear.
Ugh.
I would I would die before I hit the ground from freaking the fuck out. Wouldn't you? I think
Yeah,
I
that
would.
they
Can't
say
even imagine
that
it.
people like fall out of buildings that often they have
Like the
heart
G-force
attack
push.
before they hit the ground. That sounds a little
I've heard you
sketchy,
can't
but I
die
could.
from fright. Is that true?
You can't die from fright, but well I mean for all intents and purposes no you can't.
Yeah.
But you could die from the G-force of the impact.
There was a story.
Called impact sickness.
This was back in the early aughts when I was living up in Baltimore, and I don't mean to smile because it's kind of sad, but it was a car accident, and a couple people died. There's a couple survivors, and one guy they put on the Maryland State Police medevac helicopter. helicopter went down.
Oof.
Killed like two people in the helicopter. And the guy that was in the car accident survived the helicopter crash. So this dude
Wow.
was in a car accident that killed people. He survived. They put him in a helicopter that crashed, killed more people, and he survived both of them. Can you imagine that? I mean, this guy's got to be like a Marvel
It's probably all
superhero.
floppy and loose.
Yeah, man. I don't know. That's just I've never forgotten that. Just seems very, very amazing, very strange. I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Free falling objects. The equation for a free falling object is F, which is free falling object, equals mass times acceleration. Where
Mhm.
mass is the weight of the object, and
Mhm.
acceleration is the force of gravity, which is 9.8 something.
Gotcha.
Boom.
So,
And I failed physics twice.
I never
but
took.
have there been any more stories about the whys and wherefores of that Learjet
So the
crash?
only thing that I heard was that it may have been an onboard explosion, which makes sense. Could it's plausible
Oxygen tanks,
because if you go
chemical-
back and rewatch the videos, you can see there's like little explosion and then
Oh,
fireball when it hits the ground because it explodes.
I don't know
So
about that, but I did see flames, definitely.
So wait, so that's an equipment issue.
Yeah, so there and what's on board a air ambulance that's really
oxygen.
flammable? Oxygen.
Yeah.
And alcohol, a lot of chemicals that are combustible.
Oh, that yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were partying on the medical plane.
They were partying on there.
Not booze, Mike. Not booze.
I mean, the
Alcohol.
oxygen tanks are dangerous with there was another story just a couple days ago in trash. Like trash men get hurt from oxygen tanks getting crunched by the truck and
Oh, and they
exploding.
explode?
Put in there empty.
It just happened like 2 days ago. And if you look online, there's a video of like this guy, like it's a camera on the trash truck, and like just huge explosion goes out the back, and everyone was okay, but
Yeah. On the unit, would they every once in a while give us a little teaching on like how you store them? Because man, yeah, they can go off.
Right. Well, that's how they killed Jaws.
yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Threw
And if
threw
there's
the
ever
tank
a
in there
fire-
and then shot the tank.
There's a key
Oh,
by the nurse's station. Turns the oxygen off.
Oh, really? Like at the gas station, it just shuts it all off to every room immediately in case there's a fire?
Yep.
No, she's
Wow.
talking about valves in the walls. I'm talking about the oxygen tanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I'm talking about that oxygen because
the emergency.
what do? Just go crank the oxygen. It just falls out of the
Yeah.
and there's fire and oxygen. But yeah, the tanks are. I mean, if those explode, that's an explosion. And then what's on a jet that just took off? A lot of fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it kind of seems
Jeez,
like
man.
Well,
Now-
wasn't there like another plane crash like before we did our like just before the new year? I think it was
Hawaii?
no, I thought it was like an Asian airline.
It overran the runway and hit the wall at the end of the runway. And
Yeah, where
killed
was
almost
that?
everybody.
Where was that? Is that
why
was
is there
that
a wall there?
Right. That's the question.
Oh, are there houses on the other side or
I
business?
all right? So
remember.
that one didn't fall out of the sky. It was more just a freak accident.
Yeah, it didn't
Landing
have.
gear or something.
Yeah, it had its landing gear was messed up. It couldn't brake. That's what it is. So it landed and it just
Kept going.
went right into a wall and just accordioned. And I think it
Wow.
killed everybody. I think
Wow.
it was like 170 people or something
Well,
crazy.
thanks
Yeah,
a lot,
see-
guys. I'm going on a flight in 2 weeks. This is really
I'm getting on a little one to Myrtle Beach in April. I'm now not
ramping
looking
up my
forward to.
anxiety.
Wait, where Zeus? Where are you going?
I'm going to Florida to go see my family for a week.
Oh, cool. Good for you.
Yeah.
There was one conspiracy thing I was going to talk about with the air ambulance. So there's a lot of things on the internet because apparently they released, I think, the air traffic control conversation, not the black box, but the air traffic. So I've listened to this 14 times and I can't hear it. But apparently there's like a little section in there when it's when the pilot's going to go into radio to air traffic control. It's like you can hear allegedly hear somebody in the background saying, "You're fucking with the wrong people." I can't hear it.
Wow.
Huh.
I don't know why you would want to. I don't know why that's the airplane you choose to take down if you're a
I
pilot.
also okay, here I'm gonna squash this pretty quick. Even the media would know better than to put that out there. Or I don't know. Maybe they know exactly what they're doing. I find that sketchy at best. How about the airlines wouldn't let it get out that somebody is saying you're fucking with the wrong people
Yeah, but
as
it
a
wasn't an airline. It was a medical jet.
right, but they
Yeah.
still have
Yeah.
they go with the airlines.
Well,
So
it just,
The
you
other
know,
thing with it was going to Springfield for refueling, and then its final destination was Tijuana, Mexico.
hmm.
Which I don't really think that it has anything. I think that also was a freak accident. They
I
just two very freak accidents happened
I
way
do
close to each
Right
too,
other.
next
but
to each other.
but if they said missile hits the center of Philadelphia and showed that image, I'd be like, yeah, that looks like a missile.
Hmm.
I mean, actually they're both kind of sketchy in on visual, especially the DC crash. That helicopter looks like it had one intent, and that was to hit that plane.
Yeah, it
Uh,
had no didn't try to did not try to avoid at all. But
yeah,
man,
that's
th
pretty.
there's that. Did you guys see the one where there's like the door or the ring door camera where the dude's like walking out the house or
Yeah,
whatever,
Yes,
that's
and
my
he's
yes.
still
just
picture.
and then you can see pew,
He's like, he looks around and he's
explosion.
like, holy shit. Like he just
Yeah,
takes off inside. Yeah.
That's
That's
the
yeah,
one where I
bananas.
said that looks like a fucking missile.
Yeah.
Because the explosion, that was the big thing. The explosion afterwards was like way bigger
yeah.
than the Blackhawk hitting the jetliner. It was massive.
Well, also there was more fuel in that plane because it just took off. The one
And
landing
Right.
had
oxygen
less fuel,
tanks and
and the
oxygen
yeah.
tanks. Yeah, that would lend to a larger explosion, I suppose.
And then maybe just the force of it hitting, bam, like, oh,
I like how they went from hit them all to hit the street by them all. It's just,
yeah.
yeah.
So it did kill one person on the ground, killed everyone in the flight, killed one person on the ground, and then like 22 people are injured. There's one where this guy's like at a restaurant, and this piece of the
Yes.
plane just bonks and just hits him in the head.
It knocks his hat off.
Ugh,
Wow.
See the video of this?
He's wearing a
yeah,
baseball hat at like a Waffle House, and
Waffle House.
he's sitting in the booth next
Just
to the
cutting his
window,
waffles.
and this piece of metal comes flying through the window, takes his hat off, and he goes down.
Oh, I got to
I mean,
see this.
totally bananas, man. Totally crazy. Piece of metal, like maybe like this big, just takes the
These
guy out. I mean, not kills him, but I'm sure he's got some.
He'll be getting a lawsuit.
I mean,
well
talk about
anyway,
bad luck.
Who do you sue for that? Do you sue the air company or do you
Whoever
sue
has the
air
most
traffic?
money.
Like, who do you sue?
Whoever
sue
has the most
everybody.
money. Yeah.
Sue the Waffle House for not having stronger windows.
Yeah, man. What the hell are they thinking?
Well, what was he inside and it broke the window because there was
Yeah.
no like, was there glass breakage
Oh,
also?
I don't know. I'm assuming he was definitely inside,
Yeah, it is
right?
cold out. He probably wouldn't be outside.
Yeah. And he wasn't, yeah, I think it may have just broken the window, but
Just
who
enjoying some
knows?
bacon and sausage and eggs. What the fuck, man?
Again,
Well,
we don't know it was actually a Waffle House, but Waffle House is
It was
that's
like
funny.
that type of place. Yeah.
I hope it was
He
a
was
Waffle
still
House.
enjoying a good old American breakfast.
I can't. Can you imagine being the family of the one person on the ground that the crash killed?
It's so
Like,
ridiculous.
yeah. So, what happened to your dad? Oh, he was coming home from work and a fucking plane landed on him and cried. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I
It's
mean,
Yeah, I don't
absolutely
know.
terrible.
how do
I
you
don't know
even
what
put
that one
that
person
together?
was. It because it didn't say it hit like a bunch of cars at the intersection, you know. So I
There
don't
were
know
two
what that
burnt
guy.
out cars. Maybe it
If
was
you were
some.
just walking,
That's what I'm saying. It's terrible. You hear this terrible sound, you look up, and then there you go. That's it.
mm,
Come on,
mm,
show me the video. I got to
you
see
can't
this
find
guy
it.
getting hit by plane debris.
Life is so random, man. I mean, you do your best, right? It's like you try to keep your health up, and then like a jet falls
Yeah,
out of the
and
sky, and
On
you're.
to you.
I mean, what the hell?
not
Yeah,
even
it's
that.
like Donnie Darko. Fucking
Yeah,
plane lands on your house.
yeah,
Not
This
even
is
that. It's like we'll actively do things to avoid situations that are dangerous, like being shot or, but then I have to go into DC to get my license in Anacostia. Well, odds just went up. But like you'll do all these things to prevent that, and still plane can drop from the sky and fucking smash you. You're
That's
done.
what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
Crazy.
this is ending words with Desiree. Okay, words of
Yeah.
wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
What did they used to say about Jerry Springer? Final thoughts.
Final
Yeah,
thoughts.
final thoughts.
I
Okay.
do. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. I can do
No,
final
I
thoughts
just
in a
have a
minute.
little newsy thing when we're done before,
Okay, tell.
like 2 minutes.
Do tell.
Okay, I'll tell, and then you can click. This has nothing to do with this episode. I just have to tell you guys, and I'll send you a picture. Have you guys
Okay.
ever heard of Penzeys Spice? Penzeys
What?
Spices?
No.
Penzeys, Penzeys, Penzeys.
No.
So they're a big spice company, and the owner is just this radical leftist maniac guy. And
Oh,
we've ordered
Sorry.
like there's stores around here. Zeus, I'm surprised you haven't seen them. But anyway, we get this
They got like a
unsolicited.
spice merchant.
McCormick is
It's
up
like-
there, but
It's so we get this unsolicited UPS delivery today of a box about as big as a shoebox. It's got a bunch of these little packets in it, and I don't know if you can read that, but it says resist, keep America alive. This on the back. It says
Don't eat that.
corrosions come to town. Never has your heart mattered more. Love America. Love the hope America brings to all people of the world. Kitchen's gonna get hot, smoky too. You can stand it. Help keep America alive. And it's like spices to put on stuff. And it has this letter in here. And this guy, I won't read the whole thing. I'll send this to you guys. But basically, he's sending it to customers that they have in DC because it says, let's see, 2 possible futures ahead. One where those who believe in the promise of America give up, one where they don't. We chose your home for this box because your backyard is where America's fate is being determined. And then
This sounds
it
like a
comes with
Jehovah's
display
Witness sent
box,
this, but a
and the
spice
display
merchant
box
guy.
is like resist, resist, resist. And
well,
I'm
my
just saying,
big worry was that
this
this
is like-
wasn't
this
addressed
makes
to
the-
Mike, and he was admitting mail fraud on the podcast.
this makes the U2 album download look like peanuts. They're sending me anyway, whatever. I'll send you guys a copy of it. It's unbelievable.
But that was addressed to you, right, Michael?
Yeah,
No,
but they
it-
got to
no.
got
Look,
No?
here's the display. No, it was addressed to
we
my
can't
wife.
see it.
Oh, okay, but to your home is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they got you
Yeah.
purchased something from that store
At some
before.
point.
Okay. So this wasn't just a random ass.
But they're sending it to people in this geographical area. Anyway, it's weird.
That's very
It is
weird.
very weird.
Do any of your lib neighbors get it?
I'm sure everyone around here got it.
A couple of days after all of this
Sorry,
madness
anyway, sorry, I
with
just had
with
to-
the airplanes.
Yes.
Another airplane in Houston, Texas. Fuck Houston, it's hot down there. They were just on the runway, going to take off. Wing catches on fire.
Before it takes off?
Port takes off. They
Yeah,
were
I'm not getting on any planes
They
anytime
just
soon.
so they did stop.
Jack,
They put the air.
I mean,
They put the fire
Carl.
out. Everyone got off.
Oh.
Thank God. Because if they would have taken off, shit.
Yeah, no, fuck that. I'm not doing it.
But
I'm out. I'm tapping out on air travel. I can't.
Listen, I got to. I'm willing to take the risk because I got to get away from life.
So here, there has not been. So
Not life.
I
I
guess
don't want to die. I'm saying I got to get away from my life for a week and be on.
Oh, okay. What,
Yeah.
Desiree?
it's fine. So the last like major commercial airlines crash that killed a lot of people was in 2009, 2009.
Yeah, I think so.
2009. And then, of course, 9/11, but we're going to throw that out as an outlier because that was not avoidable, I guess. The last major mid-air collision involving a commercial airliner happened 38 years ago.
In
Jeez.
1977, the KLM flight.
So it,
48,
no,
Really?
it wasn't the KLM flight. The KLM flight was before that, I guess.
77.
Yeah. So this is relatively rare.
Yeah, yeah. And
But I
plane
don't know.
crashes
Yeah, but we got wings going on fire, doors blowing off. I mean, the
there's been
landing
a-
gear
Apparently,
not
there's been a lot of near
working.
misses.
Not
Too
enough
many
people. Not enough people in the towers. You know, it's just you got helicopters buzzing around airports. We got drones buzzing around airports now. It's just it's a lot.
Okay, here and then Hot Carl, you can let us go.
We're gonna do final thoughts.
No,
Oh,
Desiree's got final thoughts, man.
Go ahead, Zeus.
I just want to say my little thing. Am I the only one that just as about you as you're about to get on a flight, you kind of check and see when the last plane crashes were and the last plane
I
incident?
don't
No,
know.
I
No.
don't do that.
So selfish. I'm always like gauging, okay, 2 weeks ago, odds are pretty good. I get on the
Mm.
plane, I'm like, lots of babies. God wouldn't kill babies. Like I'm
You know,
That's cold, dude.
hey, look, we got another 38 years ahead of us, so I think we're okay. But no, there's this show on YouTube. If you're a little nervous about air travel, maybe don't watch Mayday on YouTube
Oh,
because you'll have fucking nightmares. And then there's this video, just if you just Google plane falls out of the sky, this is gonna be the first one that comes up. It's a military aircraft, or it
the
looks
one
like a
in
military.
China.
No, it was actually I think Afghanistan, but it was like a cargo ship or a cargo airliner.
747. Yeah.
Yeah, and it has like semi trucks or some tanks or something in it. Takes
MRAPs.
off. Shit wasn't strapped in correctly in the back, and so all the weight shifts, and it just literally stops
And
and then
just falls
falls.
out of the
Wow.
sky.
Don't watch that one.
And it
The
hits
one,
almost flat
the one that is
Yeah.
on the ground.
it's kind of cool to watch, even though lives were in it, is the one where they're like driving down this highway. I want to say it's in China,
And
and
it
the
just
plane just flies in front of them. It
wing
looks like an
almost hits the
action
road.
movie. It
Yeah.
doesn't look real, and
Yeah.
sure enough, it was real. And I think everybody died on that flight. Yeah, but that one is so creepy to watch because like you're on the bridge, plane just hit it. What's happened to you? What happened to the people on the plane? And oh yeah, a big ass plane. Like it's a big plane. I don't know what it was, but it looked bigger than your like 747s, 787s, whatever. It looked big. You know the one I'm talking about, right,
Yeah.
Des?
Yeah, it's
It's
a good
massive.
size. The other thing one of the things I've learned from watching these, it's like a train wreck. You can't stop. So watching Mayday.
Staring at the sun.
Mayday.
Mayday, that's what it's called. It goes through every air disaster you could think of. But
Uh,
anyway, it has one of the major themes that I've noticed is even if you're fucking barrel rolling towards the ground and then the pilots regain control and you're like, fine. These motherfuckers get on the air. They get on the little fucking cabin phone and they're like, attention passengers. We seem to have had a little bit of an altitude problem. We've regained control. They are just like, it's fine. We got it.
Wow.
you remember there was an
I
old
need
side. There's an old Far Side comic where the people are sitting in the plane and the pilot's like, "Oh my God, we're gonna crash, we're gonna crash, we're gonna crash." Oh no, wait, that was a beetle going across the screen, and it's just bug-eyed, like bug-eyed passengers. I wanted to stay in the plane realm. Do you guys remember this? It was a few years back. I don't think quite a decade, where this guy like hijacked like a legit like jet airliner and just took it on a joyride. And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna try a barrel roll, and then I think I'm just gonna dive right into the ground." And sure enough, he tried a barrel roll and dove right into the ground. Do you guys?
Yeah. I don't think it
No.
was a jet. It was
He
I think
was-
it was a propeller plane, but yeah, he was an airport employee. And it had landed, and I think he was supposed to work on it, and then he just got in it and took off, or
And he
fueled
was
it up.
Wow.
clearly unbalanced. He was way far from
It
what
was
we.
over, I think it was outside San Francisco, because
He was like
there's
he was
footage
like
of him,
yeah. He
and
was
he's just,
talking about the different mountains and
and they were trying to talk him down,
look
but he
that
was
one up,
so
Des.
chill. He's like, this is kind of fun, man. I'm liking this, but
Never
yeah, I
Wait,
think I'm going
so
to crash this into this island now.
wait, so he went like
So
John
he
Denver?
did it on
Well, he
purpose.
did
No,
it on
no, he did this
purpose.
on purpose. This was a suicide mission.
Yeah.
If
So
the
maybe like John Denver. I mean, that's been
he was like
Yeah, that's a theory.
that's a theory.
They tried to talk him down. He's like, "No, I think I'm going to try a barrel roll, and then I think I'm going to just fly it right into the ground." Like it was some dark shit. And
Mm.
he sounded calm but completely insane in the same. Right.
Well, gotcha.
Maybe it was.
Well,
All right, so final thoughts.
yeah, go ahead, Dad.
Looking back at that Wichita, the air capital of the world, really put in perspective. I mean, I've always thought this, but this really put it in perspective. You have one life, and it could end at any time.
Yeah.
For you don't know. You don't know
You don't
how
know.
it's going to end. A plane could fall on you tomorrow.
Alcohol abuse.
So,
Hmm.
we all have
Yeah.
one life.
He's calling it.
You should live it how you want to. I mean, everything in moderation. Don't be a dickhead. But take the flight, drink the beers,
Yeah, you can't
smoke the
hide.
cigs, eat the cheeseburgers. I mean,
Your house could
something is going
explode.
to kill you at some point. You don't know when.
Murder, suicide.
Live like you're dying.
Live like you were dying. And also, where's MH370? Thank
What?
you. That's all tonight.
No, Des, you got a good point because we were talking before, like you guys mentioned about like kind of risk assessment, right? Like we're all out there. A plane could fall on you, like you said. You could, maybe you should go to the country that you want to visit. You should eat that cheeseburger, all that. But then there's the risk assessment thing. Like there's that reason why we don't have McDonald's every day because we know it's more likely to lead to a heart attack, right? Or it's more likely to lead to some health risk that you try to avoid. So like you said, it's got to be moderation. But if you want to go to Spain, get on that plane, right? I mean, is
Go to
that
Spain.
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, if you're gonna die,
Spend that money in your savings account because you
You-
can't take it with you. Your kids don't need it. They don't want it or they don't deserve it. One of the three.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, there's a
I mean-
difference between being prudent and being paralyzed.
well,
You
like,
know?
Yeah.
my job, for instance, I'm not a cop, but I'd say a parallel would be like that. Like I run towards fucking maniacs a lot. But in my outside life, outside of work, and oddly, my work is like my happy place. Like I love it. Because
Zeus, what do you do?
I'm not
He's-
going to mention
He
it.
works in a toll booth
That's
I-
right, man.
at the Lincoln Tunnel.
I work in one of those factories where they have the chickens all up in their
He he
thing.
puts the toothpaste cap on the toothpaste tube in
It's
the
a very
Crest factory.
stressful job.
Oh, that's a lot like a cop.
But
Yeah.
no, yes. But with what I do run towards the fire a lot. But when I'm outside of that, I'm like cautious driver, head on a swivel everywhere I am. Somebody yells, I'm a little more on edge than other people. But yeah, like Des says, maybe I could take something from that because I do tend to worry about death, and really once it happens, doesn't matter anymore. So why not fucking roll the dice?
Rent the oh shit, what kind of car
Hmm.
did I rent?
Maserati.
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 Rent the Maserati and speed through New York in that bitch.
Yeah,
It's a
man.
great time. You can't really get very far, but
100%.
I mean,
I'll do that when I'm ready to die because I don't think I can afford to rent it. So might as well leave some debt for some other motherfuckers.
Well, hey, look, Des, thanks for everything on this episode. You did a lot of work there, so we appreciate it.
Very
I
much
think
so.
next week I would like us. Oh, wait, actually, I might not be able to be on next week unless we can do it
Well-
a different day.
Let's wrap.
Yeah, I think we've been on for a while, Zeus. So I think you got to do the thing. You got to do the thing. We're gonna wrap it up.
yeah.
All right, peace, guys. We'll see you next week.
See ya.